is alright, even if I gotta make it all up in my mind. Oh, ah, how do I get it off? Fuck you. Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Over here. Hello. All right. So the brakes on my bike quit. I start at the top of this big mountain, and it's a 3 mile descent. So it was 3 miles. If I had stayed on my bike, there's no place in that 3 miles where you can stop. The only field, like if I wanted to find grass, because I didn't have a helmet, the only place I could find grass was right here. And I'm going to show you at this big bottom of the steepest, it's not even the steepest part, but it's still really steep. So they said I was going about 35 to 50 miles an hour. I tried to turn, but the turn was too sharp. And I had that heavy backpack full of water, like a gallon of water. So I was worried that the backpack might kind of skirt, like if it fell. Having that heavy backpack on my back seemed like it could do a lot of damage somehow. So I'm going to show you, I'm about to turn the camera. This is my bike. So if you look, even though, see, nothing. So the brakes quit. The front brakes don't work. So see that truck? So you won't be able to see it because of the trees. Maybe we can see some of it, like you can see that they're obviously going up a hill, but it gets much steeper. And it's a long hill. So I was going around 35 to 50. And I thought, oh God, it really hurts. Hello, bird. Left or right. But, they're going to where I'm going. So, if you see over there, there's that big cement block. So I was going 35 to 50 down this. I tried to turn and it wouldn't work. So I was like, fuck it. And I thought that I didn't know it was such a steep incline. Like that's just a drop off. I thought it was like smooth like this right here. So I got down and then I saw this. So I dove off the bike. The dive didn't work because the bike was going as fast as I was going. So I tried to get off the bike and the bike just kept going with me. So I slammed down on the bike. The tire got stuck and I flipped over immediately. The backpack and the bike landed on me and I landed on my side. And when I got up, I couldn't move. So you'll see, look how close I was. Here's the tire track. And then I was almost hit this. So I tried to push it and I landed right here on my side like this. So I was laying here. There were 2 people at the church that saw me. I was screaming. I couldn't move. The whiplash was so bad I couldn't move my body. I got up and I was in pain everywhere. And I was right here and everybody was driving by and I was screaming. Help me, please, help. They would fucking stop at the stop sign with their windows down. I'm screaming for help. People in trucks, they would just look at me and then drive away. And I was down here. I have whiplash across and black and blue on half of my body. I can't pick up my backpack. They're waiting on the x-rays. Look at that big drop off. And then I landed here. I saw this and I tried to jump out of the way. And then I flipped over the handlebars next to it. And nobody stopped. I started up there and my brakes didn't work. Look at that big, it's a huge hill. I was going like 35 miles an hour because I was keeping up with cars and the speed limit's 50. So they said I was going around 35 to 50 miles an hour. You can see this is where I am. That's how big the drop off is. I landed here. I tried to jump out of the way of that and I flipped over the handlebars. And then I had to get myself up. So I had to pick myself up and I had to limp because I couldn't feel half of my body. This half is still kind of numb. So I couldn't really, like, it hurts every time I step with this foot. It sends like a shocking pain all the way up to my head. Mostly there's like a small part of my pec that's torn, but not, you know, they didn't even give me the x-rays. They just got rid of me because they were full. They gave me a Tylenol and they said if it gets worse, and it got worse, and they said, oh shit. Well, they said if the x-rays show up, they're gonna bring me back, but nothing's broken, so, you know, it just hurts. So I walked all the way over here. A state trooper pulled in, saw me, and then took off. So one of the people that didn't help me at least called, but when the state trooper showed up and he saw me, he didn't care. I don't know who tampered with my brakes because they worked fine yesterday. Where did I leave my bike? I was at the high school. I left it outside a gas station. So that could be it. But I walked over here. I walked and charged my phone. And then I called them to make sure that I still had my DCF Medicaid insurance. So I was able to call an ambulance. And it hurts. I can't pick anything up with either arm right now. And one leg is fucked up pretty bad. It's just bruising everywhere too. He said it was he didn't say it was the worst whiplash he'd ever seen, but he said it's really bad. And they were like, how the fuck do you do it? And I said that I've like, my whole life is just sort of forcing my body to function like a Sims character and cutting off all my thoughts. So I just ignore it. But then when I try to pick up my backpack here, it really hurts. So we're gonna sit down, or maybe I'll go. Give a short update. It sucks. I love people that are not good. They're not healthy mentally. I don't think they're necessarily good people. I don't think my ex-girlfriend's a good person. I don't think that she, I think that it was a waste. I think I wasted a lot of my life invested in her. And that really hurts. Because when you love somebody and then you break up, and it's like it's such a close relationship, especially when we both come from trauma, and like we survived COVID together. You know, we had this closeness, but I think she has multiple personalities. I think that every time she would leave, she would come back a different person. So I was like, who the fuck are you fucking? Nobody shapeshifts like that and comes back a completely different person. Like for me, I could see that there was like her whole energy had contorted and changed, and there's something much different about her. And I found out later she was sleeping with other people because I had a brain injury. I couldn't be the man that she fell in love with, so She used me as a bed to sleep on when she wanted to get away from her grandma's. You know, free Wi-Fi, comfy place to lay like a crib, away from her drama. I think everybody has more than one personality, man. I think every single relationship brings out a different side of you. But when you're alone, that personality you are when you're alone, I guess maybe we have a default and then we grow into a bunch of different parts of us as we build more relationships and go through more of life and do more activities and different things, we grow. But that's still all part of the whole. Basically, what I was saying is that she would leave. No, I'm not talking about, I'm saying that, so I think the best way to put it is that she's a Gemini, Leo. So I think that all that information and all those personalities and all the narratives and like the different love stories and TV shows, you know how you can watch a TV show and there's like 17 different characters that have different personalities. I think that all that stuff that she would see on a daily basis when she would go to work and go to friends' houses and go hang out with all these people, it seemed to me like all that energy and all that information would get stuck in her. And then when she would come back to me, she would be like this chaotic amalgamate of all this different energies that I'm as a 8th house stellium, Aquarius, moon, Sagittarius. I was always like forced to try, like I'm always trying to find the truth and figure things out. So I would hang out with her and I'm like, I can see that she's different. I can see that there's so much going on that's different. She even looks different. And I didn't know spirituality, so I was trying to figure it out and get to uncover it. And then I would notice that her childhood trauma was like this demonic entity attached to her, this dark blackness that, you know, like we would do mushrooms once and we sat in the same room together and I found love. And then I like woke up and found this huge anointing. And then I looked over and she was like this, basically like held captive by this black darkness that was on her side and attached to her heart. So I tried to connect to it and love it, and then she freaked out and got like vicious, angry, hateful, like a monster like had taken over her. And her dad's a gang member that's killed people and her mom's a prostitute. So I'm assuming that and she was like sexually abused as a child. I'm sure that that's in there somewhere. But now that I can see that now that I've went through that experience, it's an air sign. It deals with, they basically don't have one personality. It's like they have multiple people in them at once. That's the ancient lore to Gemini, is that they live as a dichotomy instead of one singular entity. And that causes them to want polygamous relationships and to see everything like as this constant weaving of love stories. Like everyone that she talks to and everyone that she sees on a daily basis is like this love story, and they deal mainly in communication. So Geminis love to talk to people. You'll see Geminis have more people on their Snapchat than anyone else that they're talking to on a daily basis, because they get their fulfillment and happiness through exchanging information. So they might not have like a bunch of sexual relationships with people, but they might be like at a gas station flirting with everybody and have like 7 work boyfriends and be seeing guys all the time, or girls, depending on the guy or depending on the gender. That's what I've seen in Geminis. It also depends on the moon sign heavily. Like Geminis that have like an earth moon are they're more serious and committed in their relationships, whereas air signs are more flighty and floaty. So I think that that's part of it. That's just like a layer. But basically, I'm like half alive. It hurts to move, man. It really does. I thought that I could walk it off, and I can't. I don't want to sit down because I don't want to get back up. It was hard to get back up. But basically, it's just hard. The point is that once you have such a close relationship like that, it sort of sets the stage for the rest of your life. It's either like moving on and letting go. I don't want to let that part of me go. Because I had gone through so much and became so much. When I let it go, it feels like it sheds away and I'm like born again, and I have to go start a new life. And that's been my whole life. My whole life has been starting over. My mom would freak out and we would have to move across town or move to a different place. Then custody battles between my dad and my mom, then DCF, jumping from institution to foster homes and back. And then sleeping at couch surfing, living in my car. And then I got with this girl after traveling. So then it was a constant change. She was really judgmental too. It was like you always had to have the right, you had to constantly unlock her to get her to love you. She would stick around, but she would be talking to 7 different people on her phone the whole time. And I had a brain injury. So I was trying to piece everything back together so I could start to make the jokes and then live like I lived when she fell in love with me. But she checked out. She started drinking. She was just gone. She became a really judgmental, unaccountable. I don't see how someone can do that and then come home to somebody else. I hear stuff like I scroll on YouTube and occasionally I'll find like a red pill street interview guy that interviews people like, what's the worst thing what's the biggest thing you learned about humans from being a nightclub bouncer? And he would say that he met these amazing girls that worked full-time jobs and were married that would go to the bar, sleep with somebody behind a dumpster, and then invite their husband to the bar, and they would all hang out together afterwards. The guy that she had just hooked up with behind a dumpster, and then she introduces him to her husband when he gets off work, and they hang out the whole night and say nothing. And then she would do that, like he would see that all the time with tons of different people. And I'm like, what went wrong? How do people get to a point where they can feel normal doing that? It would give me pain. Like I would be sitting in a room. If I had done that to somebody, I cheated on one girl for a summer when I first started smoking weed and I was hanging around bad people. We'd meet up with girls and we'd hook up. And then I would occasionally see the girl that I was mainly seeing, that I had taken her virginity. And it killed me. I couldn't find a way to love her, even though she was great for me. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the drugs were making my mind decline. So I felt like if I kept going, eventually I would lose myself. So I'm like, fuck it, it's the summertime. I'm going to get as much good memories as I can. And then I'll figure it out at the end of the road. And then at the end of the road, I drove my car into a pole to kill myself. So for this girl to not feel bad at all, that she's doing much worse than I ever did, and then she would come home to me every night. And her excuse was that one time we were in a fight and she said she broke up with me like 2 weeks into the relationship that lasted 3 years. So like in the first 2 weeks, we technically broke up. So that allowed her to do all the things that she did. And I think that I was a lot more functioning than I gave myself credit for, but I gave up on life. Everything I did up until that point was to be good enough for love. And then I associated that love with her because I really loved her, and I felt like we were so similar in a lot of ways, and it was like we were best friends. I've never had a best friend, but I felt this closeness to her that I didn't have with anybody else, probably because of shared childhood trauma. And our family situation was pretty similar. No love in the house, and narcissism. So, and I mean, I was on medication as a child. So instead of being able to sit with myself like I have now and sort of like go through it and then pick myself up, I got medication that compartmentalized me into a very small part in the back of my head that would freak out, and then I'd have to try to fight to get back into my body, and that would cause me to act manic. But I don't know. There was just a connection that I didn't have with anybody else. So I didn't. Once you find that type of love, no, like life is gray outside of it. When she would leave, it was like my world would turn gray and empty and cold because I loved her, and then she became contorted and sort of, it felt like possessed almost. Like as soon as we got together, she disintegrated, and there was nothing. It was like her light went out, and then all she could do was go to other guys. All she did, her entire life, from when I got with her to the end of our relationship, her entire life was just seeing other guys and hanging out with people who would encourage her to see other guys. There were no ambitious moves. She wasn't doing any creative, like she used to write. She didn't write anymore. She didn't do anything. All she did as soon as she got with me was cheat and treat me. It was just like constant. It felt like spiritual, demonic stuff. Just constant harvesting my life force energy. I just felt like I had become in a system where I was just constantly heartbroken every hour, every day, in pain, until I gave up. And then when I gave up, then I was like her dog. But eventually I got up and I worked out and started making my music more. I still had terrible piece of shit friends, like friends that would smoke all my weed and then ask to crash on my couch. But then they occasionally do things like he let me stay at his dad's house. Or they'd bring me to Walmart, but on the way to Walmart, he would say that he had stolen my energy and he was using it for sexual stuff. That's the type of shit that I had in my life. And then I had a kid that would come over because he wanted to use my music studio. And then his friend would steal my weed and would smoke it into my fucking cat box. Kyle would take my weed, he would hide it, he would sit there panicking, paranoid that I didn't see him just take my weed. And then I'd watch him go into the bathroom, and then I'd just go right in after him to be like, what the fuck did you just do? And I'd see the smoke in my fucking cat box. So they stole like probably like $1,000 worth of weed from me, because I was the guy that was buying it, and my dad grew it. And then who knows where she was, because she loved lying. Yeah, you're blocked, bro. I'm gonna block you, man. But I've been watching Fred Beyer a lot. I've been starting to watch, pretty much the only YouTube channels I watch are tarot readings. I watch Call Me Carson and Gavintino. I watch General Sam sometimes, and then I watch. I have a lot of cigarettes in my brain. Oh yeah, Neptune's in retrograde, so our dreams are going to be a lot more vivid. If you guys haven't realized, when you daydream and you're like at rest, turn your phone off, let your phone die, rest. like get away from electronics, go to bed, wake up, and watch how your daydreams have become so much more dreamy and vivid, and I can see a lot more. Like I really got to meet some aliens. I really got to communicate with some aliens today before this happened, coincidentally. There was one that was always trying to interfere with my thoughts, so I couldn't think at all. I thought that I was thinking, but I realized it was something else just playing a bunch of sounds. Like, I'd be sitting here, and then there was a big dent in my head that I didn't realize the crows had beaten into me. So there was a huge dent in my consciousness. They had like pushed the pressure, so I couldn't think. And then there was just like an attachment blob that was just spewing out chaotic garbage that I thought were my thoughts. So I had messaged a bunch of people last night and said things that I realized were me trying to fight off that thing and being sort of impulse guided into ruining my relationships. So when I was dreaming, there was an alien that looked like, if you remember Star Wars, the Clone Wars episode, Star Wars Episode 2, the Clone Wars, the second movie, or the seventh movie, or the fifth movie, because there's three, so the fifth. It was one of those things, like the really long necked heads and the no hair and the smaller head, but it had robot arms. That pushed it away a little bit, and then another chaotic monster jumped in. So there's like a coliseum, tons of different entities that are always trying to influence us, which is why the Bible, and having a daily practice is really important. I'm going to tell you if smoking cigarettes helps or hurts. Sometimes it really helps, and sometimes it really is a detriment. Some days it's sacred, and it helps me coalesce and function better. And some days it destroys my aura, and invasive stuff, fear, anxiety, tons of stuff tries to get in. So I guess it really depends. It has to be a certain situation that you have to be consciously conscious of. Life is really hard. Especially because the older you get, the more traumas stack up. Like, life does not get easier. Guess how much I weigh? I weigh 195 pounds. I can do 3 pull-ups with good form. Today was going to be the first day of my journey where I was going to do 100 pull-ups a day, and I was going to do 100 push-ups a day, and then I wiped out. Saturn is in retrograde. Saturn, at least, probably more. So it kind of makes sense that when Saturn hit retrograde, I was physically damaged. It's supposed to be that all these planets are in retrograde for months. This next 6 months is going to be beaten down on us and sort of stripping away everything from 2018 to now, which is why I'm so heavily always trying to give my righteous truth to my... The first thing she said to me is, "It's been 5 years." She's been calling me for years. It's been 3 years, and 2.5 of those 3 years, unless she's lying, she said she was just in an abusive relationship. So it's been a pretty shit couple. She was just trying to make him feel better about it. Okay. I don't know how I'm gonna try to play guitar later. I'll probably stay here tonight. I don't want to carry this all the way up the hill. Okay. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.